Hey, I'd like to share a story with you, perhaps a funny one. The year is 2020. I am 13 years old, and in about a month, I'm turning 14. I'm sitting in my basement trying to read a book, but I can't. I'm crying. But why am I crying? Back in January, my friends convinced me during one of our epic hangouts. They convinced me to confess my admiration for a certain member of our friend group. This member of our friend group was a girl. So my friends convinced me to confess my crush, if you will. And that's when it all began. Through the remainder of 8th grade, I and this slightly more than friend now continued to spend a lot of time together. We talked a lot and definitely made it known that we had an interest in one another, right? Keep in mind, I'm gonna be funny about it because this was 8th grade, okay? There's a lot to learn here. I want to be able to kind of help out the younger guys out here so you can, you know, kind of learn from my mistakes. Now, some of these mistakes are mandatory. You got to make these mistakes, but some of them are also like nice to be told. And I think it's gonna be a fun time. So, anyways, onward. So as 8th grade progresses, um, we're continuing to spend good chunks of time of our day together, and the big part, texting all the time, right? Does anyone remember Google Hangouts? That's what it was called. This logo right here. Y'all remember Google Hangouts? That's what we were texting on, okay? Yeah. But anywho, so as time goes on, we get into about March. And what happens in March? According to my memory, correct me if I'm wrong, but here in Utah, I believe it was in March that schools shut down. Pretty sure. And so my school, obviously, was in session no more. So now that we're no longer in school, our main form of communication is now Google Hangouts, baby. So we're texting and maybe FaceTiming some and calling, but mostly texting like all day. Because as much as we had schoolwork to do, I'm an 8th grader. Of course I'm going to be texting the whole time. So time goes on and things start to open up a little bit more. So we're finding ways to actually get together and hang out more. I can't drive, and my parents are smart, so they really didn't want me spending too much time with women as an 8th grader. And that's very wise. Thank you, Mom and Dad. But I still found my ways, and I got very good at convincing them, as selling my pitch as to why I had a good enough reason to get together with this individual. The main reason was I'd get my other friends to go, and therefore it was a hangout. Yes. So it's a pretty good strat. Throughout lockdown, we have a couple more hangouts, and the most serious anything got was that I accidentally kissed her on the cheek. And that was about it. So yeah. It is a very wholesome time, okay? It's very pure. Nonetheless, one big problem did arise. Maybe not a big problem at first, but it did become apparent. I had weird hiccups in the way I carried myself in certain situations, and this would prove problematic. For starters, a lot of times when we get in social situations where I couldn't have her undivided attention, I couldn't give her mine, I would for some reason go into autopilot mode. I would become uncomfortable for some reason and do not know what to do with myself, so I'd act weird and kind of be standoffish and be a sigma male. That happened on multiple occasions, and maybe the first time I had an excuse that I could come up with. By the third time, we go to a funplex, and we got a lot of friends, and we're there for hours, and I go into autopilot mode again, and I'm feeling a little weird. I'm being standoffish, and I'm uncomfortable because her friend is kind of weird. okay? And so, come home, and this is where it all begins, okay? I text her, and I'm like, I'm so sorry that again, this was what, 4 years ago? So I don't remember exactly what I said, but I do remember saying, like, I'm so sorry that I act blank because of blank. So basically, just saying, I'm so sorry that I have absolutely zero self confidence and self understanding, like understanding of who I am and how to behave and how to be a human being and how to function. And it's my fault, but it's not really my fault because your friend is weird and stuff. And so, as you can imagine, um, all of this is kind of coming across terribly and very annoying, right? And so then she says something along the lines of, I'm done. I want you to imagine what eighth grade me goes ahead and does. Think about it. Think about it. What did eighth grade me do? What did eighth grade me do? Eighth grade me decided to let my absolute fear come out over the text messaging system, otherwise known as Google Hangouts. So, for the next 45 minutes, maybe, it might have been like 20 minutes, but it felt long, I proceed to, you know, kind of beg, like, hey, talk to me, please, please. I'm so sorry, we can talk this out, it's okay. Also, side note, I'm pretty sure I broke my phone at this time, so like I couldn't call her. So like I had to text her through my computer. So we might get into that, but like, note to self, like, if possible, please find a way to call in this kind of scenario, okay? But unpause, right? Um, yeah, so I'm here just like trying to fix the situation, but I'm an eighth grader who's very emotional right now, and I have no clue what I'm doing. And so, um, as she continues to say, like, I'm not talking to you right now, because she's really annoyed that, like, I can't just function normally. Like, I don't have an excuse for behaving. Like, who has an excuse for, I'm sorry, babe. I went into autopilot and I wasn't thinking with my head. And I wasn't there in the body because I was scared or something. Like, that isn't gonna fly. That's not an excuse. That's not a good reason. That's a nothing. That's absolutely nothing. Okay? So I have absolutely no argument here. What I should have done, and we might get into this again at the end, I should have just not said anything and reflected upon myself and maybe done something, but I'm an eighth grader. What do you expect? I'm still a wee little lad. So, anywho, next thing I know, I'm getting no responses. And I am devastated. I am so shocked. I am bewildered. I don't know what to do with myself now. And so then it begins. The days of silence. One day goes by. Nothing. I send a text message. Nothing. Second day. I don't remember what happened because I was so devastated that I was in a haze. I was inside of my head, really reconsidering every choice I had ever made throughout my lifetime. I was just, it was sad boy hours, okay? So I was having what one may consider to be a hard time. So, with that being said, throughout the next couple of weeks, things were odd because I couldn't call again. So I had really spotty forms of communication. And when they would come by, it was very dull. And I do believe there was one more time within the first couple of weeks that I had sent, like, I had tried one more time really hard to, give my spiel. And obviously, as anyone with a normal brain would say, this guy is really annoying and he's really emotional and I don't like him. So that didn't go well either. Did she say those things to me? No, but she probably said something still. And I was still devastated. My second try to come back, and it wasn't working. By the time I get a new phone, it was over. It was over. I had tried a couple more times to try to reach out and make contact. Nothing. Besides maybe some very vague messages. And after those attempts, that was it. That was most of all I heard from that individual. And life continued. But I struggled to continue. In fact, I was, again, very shook for some time. Perhaps another month. It took me a while to get over this. And now we're back in my basement when I was trying to read a book. And I could not because I was crying. All right. There's the story. Okay? That's it. That's the story. If you're wondering what happens after that, my parents get me a flight back to Ohio where I moved from about a year previous. So I went back and saw all my old friends and did some reflection and, had some awesome times being with awesome people, which is a very good thing to do when you break up with someone, is to go spend time with the other really, really awesome people in your life and understand that it's not all over and there's a lot of incredible people in this world that you can spend time with and entertain yourself with anyways. But after that, I began to find my new true love. Then started the chapter, the whole book itself, of my journeys in basketball. And there, ladies and gentlemen, might have been the greatest benefit of my 8th grade breakup, was that I was able to really find who my true love was. It was not my 8th grade sweetheart. No, it was not my 8th grade crush. No, no, no. It was a ball. More precisely, the ball that I like to put in a hoop. And over the course of the summer, I got very good at that. And since it was COVID, I spent all day, every day in my backyard practicing. I watched YouTube videos on how to refine and perfect my form and my techniques and to grow my skills. By the end of the summer and into the fall, I made the 9th grade basketball team a couple miles from me. That's wild. And I'm 5'6". At the time, I was probably 5'4.5", maybe 5'5". Okay? That's crazy. So, there's a takeaway right there. Breakups can actually be incredible, in fact. You just need some patience. They might pan out well. And that panned out well. So, let's get into the takeaways. Shall we? Takeaway number 1. Don't do confessions, okay? Now, I'm an 8th grader, and that is something you should totally do as an 8th grader. Like, that is a very 8th grade, that's some very 8th grade activity, okay? Is your friends being like, dude, go do it. You like her. You gotta tell her. I know she likes you back. Go tell her, bro. And then, what do you know? Oh, I like you. I like you too. Whoa! But at the end of the day, there's no point in confessions, because a real self-confident individual from the start will just straight up tell you that they think you're attractive and that they have a romantic interest in you. Okay, you'll find a way to get that message across very quickly, right? Because you don't waste time. You know what you want. You got a mission. You've got places to be, so you don't mess around. Okay, but again, I was an 8th grader. There were things to learn. Okay. Along with that, in that same point, is actually know what you want in a partner. Now, again, an 8th grader has absolutely no clue, and that's fine. But I'm trying to help you, my friend, okay? So, ahead of time, know what you want in a partner. Don't just find a girl that likes you back, because that's what an 8th grader wants, right? Okay, I hope that one's pretty self-explanatory. Know what you need and want in a partner. More so need, actually, because it's harder to find what you need rather than you want. You might want goth girlfriend, but that's not going to actually help you, is it? Number 2. Okay, so texting. There's a couple of little points to this, so let's get into them real quick. Number one, notifications. The biggest joy of my relationship in 8th grade came from notifications and hearing the good old Google Hangouts sound. Wow, that notification made me happy, okay? And that's a problem. When most of your dopamine comes from the excitement of someone texting you and just a sound making you go, and you perk up and you get all excited, okay, that's a bit of a problem because what about the fact that like they're a human being and that should excite you and that should make you happy? The next point ties into that. Your relationship relying on texting is also a big problem. Now, I broke my phone at some point, as we covered earlier, but still, get creative. Don't text too much. If you're older than an 8th grade and you can drive, go see the person, okay? Make time for them in your week to go see them so you have to just talk less virtually, which will really help your relationship and keep things exciting. Okay, this is my alpha male speaking. You should be an interesting and valuable enough person. Honestly, just love yourself enough to have hobbies and important things to do so you aren't texting all the time. But again, I'm an 8th grader. I don't have a lot of important things to do, but I could have been grinding on basketball sooner. So keep that in mind. Number 3, presence. Okay, so in this point, I want to talk about my airplane mode issue, okay? When I become uncomfortable, like I said earlier, I kind of go into airplane mode, and that's a little problematic, okay? So what I have written down here, I'll read this for you, actually. I like this. Stop being a soy boy and learn to deal with discomfort and new scenarios. It's a pretty good point. Essentially, what that point is saying is stop being in your head so much and being so fragile that the second that something that you not even dislike, but just aren't used to, or maybe slightly don't enjoy, makes you just kind of go into autopilot mode and you start being weird and you just kind of like start like, you get the picture. All right. It's being in the room, but not actually being in the conversation or being valuable, right? That's very unattractive, okay? Even to an 8th grader. Be yourself whenever and wherever, okay? That's very huge, actually. That's a big one. A lot of the greatest people ever that I've met don't care about like how they appear. They are just so fun to be around because they know who they are and they will make sure that everyone around knows who they are. See, my boy Hudson back in 8th grade was a monster at this. Everyone knew Hudson because maybe he was a little tall, but he was such a massive and hilarious dork, but also such a cool guy because he played every single sport and knew a lot about everything. So you could have a conversation with him. That was a cool guy, okay? And he made himself known just by being very sociable. And that's how you do it. Number 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, that's right. So don't text when you're emotional. This is more of a tip for guys. Girls, we get it, okay? Honestly, do whatever. Go ahead. But my boys, don't text when you're emotional. It's like shopping when you're hungry. You're just bound to make problems, okay? They're gonna build up. And in my case, all I had to do was wait a day or maybe wait till later that night and to text them. But instead of the second I got home, I was like, I'm so sorry for being weird that 30 minutes ago I couldn't function normally because I'm weird. Okay, does that make sense? That just made a lot of problems. And then when they were like, I'm done, I was like, no, please, I can't. And I was really sad, okay? So that's a problem. And number 5, don't break up over text. Only problems will amount from breaking up over text, right? Communicating over text is difficult. And so breaking up over text, when there's a lot of emotion and there needs to be a lot of critical thinking and a lot of time to process things and to take breaths and to understand the other person. Over text, none of those things are happening, and this is going to become very difficult, okay? And then if you dare start using emojis or a bunch of exclamation marks, you're cooked. That's a big problem, okay? And it's bound to happen if you break up over text. So just don't do that, okay? Sorry, I had to beat 8th grade me up. He is on the ground now, being sad. The last little piece I would like to give you, and this is for most things, this applies to most things. If possible, try to avoid using any emotion that is not positive over text. And that was my 8th grade breakup. My first ever breakup. Okay. You want to have an awesome day? I'll catch you later. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you in the next one.